Hi everyone, welcome to this new podcast, Luxurynsight in collaboration with fashionnetwork.com. Today we are very happy to welcome Helen Lambert. Helen is the CEO of Lambert & Associates, and she recently founded a new digital platform called the Style Pulse, which she's going to describe today. So get ready and have an amazing podcast.
Good day, everyone. This is Godfrey Deeny, Global Editor-in-Chief of Fashion Network, here today with Helen Lambert
Kennedy.
Nice to see you. Helen's had a brilliant career in fashion, working for magazines initially and then taking over the most important buying office in Paris, the capital of fashion, unquestioned, and developing that, dealing with major department stores and big boutiques, and playing a key role, a fulcrum role in buying and retailing in fashion. And then finally she has a recent project called the Style Pulse, which is a very innovative sort of online wholesale fashion platform. But let's begin at the beginning. How did you ever get into fashion in the first place?
Hi, Godfrey. Firstly, nice to see you this afternoon, this rainy day. It's sort of a long story, but growing up in Ireland in the countryside, I always dreamed about colour and dresses and the beauty of Paris. And once I'd done my studies, I headed to Paris ASAP. And very luckily started to work in advertising initially with the Herald Tribune, which was a nice foot in the door to Paris because it was all bilingual, everybody spoke English. And during that time, I was able to improve my French, but continue to grow and learn. So going on from there, I went to work with Elle Magazine to go a little bit faster, and then grew into that position where I was overseeing 34 L's around the world for their advertising. And we also took care of Elle Decor. So this really gave me a huge opportunity to learn all about the luxury business, because obviously coming from Ireland, we didn't have that kind of luxury at all. And being in Paris, the capital of fashion, and it be perfume or home design, everything was at your doorstep. So it was a fantastic learning curve for me. And it permitted me to meet a lot of extraordinary people, from Yves Carcel to the Sidney Toledanos and all these different people in the world of fashion and luxury. And from there, I moved on to buying the buying office, which was the biggest one in Europe at that time. And it had offices in Paris, London, Milan, and Florence, and a small office in New York. And after taking that over, I restructured the business and we brought it forward to be much more of a consultancy business. But the whole idea of that, the buying office, is initially started in the 60s, where it was people on the ground in Europe buying for the big department stores in America. So that's what we did for quite a long time. We worked with people like Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, but we also worked a little bit later on with Lane Crawford. We worked also with Holt Renfrew. And for example, even a business like Lane Crawford was very exciting for us because they weren't known on the market back in the day. So we opened many doors for them, and we were the intermediary always. We were mandated by the retailer, but in fact we were sourcing and finding new exciting product that would work well for our customers. So we did that across all categories, so from fashion to niche beauty products, perfume products, accessories of course, and then some home design and jewellery and epicure. So it was quite an interesting time because it'd be the United States or Canada, everybody was still coming to Europe looking for newness and looking for luxury, because luxury is really born and brought up here. So that was quite an interesting time for us. And with me, I had quite a team of experts that were very interesting young people that worked in all of the offices.
Well, just say, when you say you were buying for them, you weren't placing the orders? Exactly.
No, we weren't actually placing the orders, but we were doing all the sourcing for them in advance. And then once they placed the order, we could actually negotiate for them as well. But once they placed the order, we could actually do all the follow-up once the orders were placed to getting the freight forwarder and having it in their stores a few weeks later or weeks later, once the manufacturing was actually done.
Did you ever have an idea or calculation of how much people spent through your office in Paris
at one
in
stage,
any given year or season?
At one stage, we had probably 150 million going through the office wholesale. So if you multiply that by the markup, it was quite a lot of money, and it was really exciting. We really had a value on the market from that point of view.
So you were kind of the eyes and ears of
those department stores
when they were the biggest buyers in the world.
Absolutely. And for example, Alaya went through our office back in the day, Christian Louboutin, all of those people that became extremely well known around the world, and may not have been as known in France at the time, but became really famous when they hit the other side of the world.
Did you feel that part of your remit was to discover people for these?
To discover people, have a real understanding of what our client was looking for, have an understanding also of what the customer was looking for as time went on, and because these customers are very well off and their wishes change quite easily, but they're mainly a luxury customer, and they're usually people that will spend a lot of money and across the board. It won't just be fashion, it'll be jewelry, it'll be home, it'll be everything. So it's very high end.
We've seen how the whole industry changed with the internet. How did that affect, how did you see it affecting initially? When was the first signs it was affecting the business model of the big department stores?
I think it started to happen gradually, but obviously with the push of internet and with e-commerce that was starting, those who decided to have their e-commerce sites early on are those who've done, a little better. But it definitely began to change, I think, probably also after the crisis in 2008, 2009. The customers as we would know them, the customers of these department stores, also became much more savvy in what they wanted to buy. And I think that was the beginning of, it was being bought in Europe. And, I think we all remember as well, at that time, prices were increasing very rapidly for the actual product. And when it was shipped to the other side of the world, it was expensive. So those customers that were very high end and had, very big means, they also wanted to make sure that we're buying quality, and they weren't going to be, you weren't going to pull the wool over their eyes anymore. And those people also were able to read a lot more. They were more educated about what they wanted to have and what was coming out of Europe or elsewhere.
Okay. Do you think that, when you talk to luxury executives in Chanel or Dior or Fendi or places, they're all very hesitant still to go into the web, a lot of those brands. But, eventually they all have in various forms, whether on online retailing or their own or collaborations or even through department stores. But most of them seem to think that, at the end of the day, they still in another 20 years, the majority of their business will be through their well-placed chain of boutiques in locations in key shopping streets. Do you think that's right?
I think those who have now committed to e-commerce, they, the brands, the luxury brands, you're right, they were hesitant for a long time, thinking that they couldn't give that VIP treatment. Yeah. But we've all seen, since lockdown, click and collect. Oh. I mean, people are buying, hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars worth of jewelry and picking it up on the side, on the curb. So, I mean, it is happening. I think it will remain important that those brands have fabulous stores in key areas. But there has to be more than, it's about the service. It's about what they can also offer to that customer. How can they make them more loyal? What can they do? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with the e-commerce is how do you maintain this customer? And as the customer today has a lot of choice to go from one place to another, how can you make that customer loyal? And that's the big challenge. And I feel they can own that more when the customer crosses the doorstep to come into them. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Where do you see the future of department stores? Will they always exist, or are they a bit like newspapers? There probably will be a New York Times in another 20 years, but there may not be 10 English newspapers. So where do you see it going?
That's a very, very good question. They're not going to disappear completely. Let's face it, there's a hell of a lot of real estate and a lot of dollars and thousands of millions and millions of dollars behind all of that. But I do think it is a time where they need to turn their ships. That things need to speed up, they need to embrace more digital, they need to, the way they manage probably their businesses is going to be forced to change. I think we're seeing these multi-brand stores that are growing very quickly, and they don't have to be huge, but we're seeing them sprouting up, and they're immediately wanting to deliver something newer and fresher to the customer. And I think one of the big problems with a lot of the department stores today is we have a lot of the same product in all the department stores. So it's, you travel, and we're not traveling at the moment, but when we do travel, we always think it'd be nice to bring back something new, but you travel to Tokyo or to New York or to Shanghai, it's the same everywhere. And it's a little unfortunate because all of those, they lost their identity. So department stores, they'll continue to exist, but I think they're going to be challenged to move faster, to bring back more newness and more diversity into the stores. Okay. And then with that, of course, continuing to maintain a good relationship with their customers, with their final customers.
I see increasingly as an editor, I judge things on what comes in my inbox, what is being pushed upon me, because half the stories I write are ultimately releases information coming in, events organised rather than us creating them. One thing that strikes me is never-ending, daily, multiple emails on collaborations, and it seems to be the business model completely now. Why do you think that is?
I think it was a good way for both brands and either stores to have freshness, and without going the full hog maybe of taking on a new designer, but to do things with the designer, to create something specific, but then move on and do another collaboration with somebody else. So I think it's the freshness, it's engaging with different, reaching out to different customers and making it a little bit more fun and happening. So with a collaboration, you can pick somebody who's really hot today, and that will carry you for some time until you pick somebody else.
Okay. Now, you started a new venture recently,
yes,
called, very innovative, called the Style Pulse. Tell us about that.
Okay, the Style Pulse, that has been, in our minds already for probably 3 years. We've been working on it for 2.5, and we opened this summer. So the Style Pulse is actually a tool for buyers, retailers, a global sourcing tool. It is a tool in order for the buyers and retailers to prepare their buying sessions or seasons or whatever you want to call it. And it is something that we have been, as I said, thinking about and wanting to get moving, but we finally opened now this summer. I think what was very important is it's more or less doing what we were doing, but making it digital and opening up to a lot more stores around the world. With that, I think what's important is that it's subscription based, so the retailer buys in. It's quite confidential. We have today 4,500 brands on our database, and that's across the board. So it's all categories that we have been working with in the past, we continue to work with. So it'd be fashion, home design, epicure, jewellery, women's wear, menswear, and children's. So as I said, we've 4,500 brands today, and the buyer can come on there and find newness, freshness. He can control what he sees. He can have a good control of the work he wants to do with a vendor. I think also what's important is the brands that we have selected, we have curated, do not pay to be on our site. This is where we differentiate from other sites, for example.
For instance, there's that site, Jour.
Yes. So the site Jour would be more the back end of the business. It's once the buyer has once they do the buy and they complete their orders, it's more technological Jour. Whereas ours, the Style Pulse, is really showing the newness, having something that's very easy to navigate, something that's quite aesthetically beautiful for the buyer. And he can also really get a good understanding of the identity of this vendor that we have picked, this designer that we've picked. So they also have the possibility of downloading the line sheets. They have the possibility of seeing the latest lookbooks. And that's something, obviously, that is updated every few months once there's a new collection. So all the pricing is up there. And something that's important, very important, is that we give our take on the site. So each brand that we have, we give our idea, why we picked them, what's the best thing about them, if they're sustainable or not. Then we also give the pricing, which is wholesale. We give the list of stockists. So all of that really permits the buyer to be ready when they go into market.
Why do you think it'll work?
I think it'll work because today, I think we all see there's so many brands out there. There's a sea of brands. And this really helps the buyers to have an edited choice. This is what we've always prided ourselves on. We've always been finding brands that will correspond to retailers. So it is really our DNA. That's what we do best. And I think with that, we have the know-how. We have the know-how to do that.
We're continually being surprised in changes in online retailing. Will you be working with online retailers as well?
Yeah. Yes, we can definitely be working with online retailers.
But we've seen the industry have a whole series of successes, not just Net-a-Porter or Matches or there's Mytherese, there's Zalando, up and down the scale.
In Canada, we've got Essence, which is doing very well.
Essence, you also have a thing I've grown to be interested in, Vestiaire Collective, which
of course,
reuse,
second-hand,
vintage,
reuse,
or whatever term you want to use. The argument is like there's just this giant reserve of high quality luxury available to be reused. But the one recent step which struck everyone, I think, obviously, was the idea that rival groups like Kering, Richemont, YNAP, and Farfetch, three of the four rivals, would all link together. How do you think that will work with Alibaba, of course, even the biggest element in a way? But do you think that was inevitable in order to protect quality retailing from the invasion of Amazon?
I think yes, that's one of the big reasons. I think definitely they're trying to protect themselves because, as we've seen as well about 2 months ago, that Amazon also wants to go into the luxury area. So, and then it's to do with market share. When you get all the big giants like that clubbing together, it will definitely help to maybe keep somebody else a little bit further back. But it's an interesting take because, as you said, they were all rivals, but maybe they can meet on one particular, point and work from there. We'll see. Let's see.
Amazon has begun very slowly, really. They launched the luxury store with only one brand, the Oscar Lorenta. And they barely added any more until this week. I see my friend Ellie Saab has now joined quite actively, but still. Why do you think they've been so slow? Do you think brands still hesitate to get into bed with Amazon?
Yes, I think brands are probably still a little hesitant. And I think that, we're all seeing that Amazon has done also super well during COVID. So it's just such a big machine and there's so much power behind it and there's so much, it's just huge. So yes, I think brands will want to be a part of it down the road. But I guess right now they're still a little hesitant and people have, the idea, well, it was just maybe your grocery shopping to start with or home tools that you needed or whatever. But it's, it's going to be much bigger than that.
This series podcast is all about change in fashion and luxury. What do you expect to be the next big change or changes?
Well, I think firstly, the big change right now, I mean, we had all come to a point in this luxury industry, it seemed to have gone too far and the machine was breaking. But I think, people had started to look at it in different ways. We ourselves had started to imagine our own digital platform 3 years ago, as I said. But in actual fact, I think the arrival of COVID has pushed us all further to really make the decisions that need to be made now in 2020 and to be ready for 2021. I think that, after every big pandemic, things change. And we won't be going back to the same format that we had, how we lived, how we traveled, so on and so forth. And the fact, even with our platform, buyers were traveling all the time. That had also become a problem. Buyers were traveling all the time. It was endless collections. And I think today people are standing back. They can do part of it, through Zoom. Not all of it, but they can do part of it. Yeah. And I think now people are really going to be, I see another big change is the sustainability, what's been happening over the last few months, even since the first lockdown to this lockdown. And the products that are coming out now, people were missing things when they were more at home and they thought they wanted to do things differently. So this is life-changing. This is life-changing. This COVID, what has pushed us to do, the fact that we won't travel in the same manner anymore, we'll be thinking about it, the carbon footprint, sustainability. There's a lot of things that are going to happen.
One thing that surprises me permanently after 30 years in the business and having travelled to fashion weeks in Beijing, Tokyo,
all over the world,
Sao Paulo and Sydney, as well as, the big four here in Europe and New York, is how it's still very Eurocentric and New York-centric, the luxury industry, the brands. And there haven't really been many or any really in a funny way have really emerged as major designers or major players or major. Why do you think that is? And do you think that'll remain the case?
I think, firstly, Europe had that DNA, had that savoir-faire. Will there be other luxury brands elsewhere? Yes, I think down the road there will be. Europe has, we all know economically it's been difficult for the last few years, there's no doubt, but we still have that savoir-faire and the customer will still come to Europe for that. But I wouldn't be surprised in 5-10 years China can't do, something like this. In a different manner. It might be because even what we're looking at in the fashion world or luxury today, what is luxury and what will luxury be to the young people of tomorrow? Will it be technologically based? Will it be a mix of technological, fabrics with beautiful fabrics? There's going to be more change. There's going to be more change. And I think, why not? Why not?
We have a young audience of people wanting to work in fashion. I'm going to end by asking you a little bit about what would your advice be to a young woman or young man who wanted a career in fashion or in retail or in buying?
I think today it's important to have a wide background. It's important to be able to go niche, but we need to be able to be flexible and adaptable. I think all industries, as I said, in any case, they're in flux. The fashion industry will continue to change, luxury industry will change, but any young person, they need, good solid background in their studies. They need to be passionate about what they're doing. They need to give it time. But I think the adaptability is going to be key in the coming years. And it's going to be, if you can be rapid to get into something and try something, fail fast, get to the next thing if you need to fail fast. But I think that's going to be key.
Helen Lambert, it's been nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Thank you, Godfrey.